Okay, this is a one-speaker meeting, and please welcome our speaker tonight, Mike F.
Hi, everybody. My name's Mike Finnigan. I'm alcoholic. And by the grace of the power I found through the 12 steps and love and support of people like you, I haven't had a drink since July 19th, 1986. For that, I'm very grateful. And I want to thank Jay for asking me to share with you tonight. I'll give you the short one. And if you don't like what I say, talk to Jay. I want to welcome all our new friends and our visitors, and congratulations to the people that took chips and the people that took cakes. And oh yeah, for the new guys, I should tell you, I don't speak for AA. That lady in the back does. When I was new, I used to think that the speakers were spokespeople for Alcoholics Anonymous, but that's not true. I'm not an AA speaker. I'm just a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. So if I say anything that the new people don't like, if it disturbs them in any way, then that'll make me happy. No, I'm just kidding. Just ignore it. Kick it under the chair. Maybe the next guy can use it. But let's see. I've done my disclaimer. I was thinking about... Well, you know, when I was new, I used to think that the speakers were really important, you know. I'd think, man, she must be like president, you know, or something, you know. But I found out later on that that wasn't the case. I don't have time to tell you my whole story. I've known Jay since about 1970, 71, somewhere around in there. He was telling me before the meeting that I sold him his first gram of cocaine. And that really disappointed me. But I was already trying to help him get to Alcoholics Anonymous, I guess. Anyway, I got a call from a guy the other day. Well, it wasn't the other day, it was a couple years ago, but you know, when you stay sober, man, time just flies by. You know, the days used to drag by, man, but they don't anymore. But this guy called me, and he said, it was about 6:30 in the morning. He said, this is Jim. And I said, yeah, Jim. I knew right away he was an alcoholic, you know, because he thought I'd remember him. And I said, well, I know, you know, 2, 3 Jims, maybe 5, 10, 20, 50, but, you know, give me a hint. How do I know you? And he said, well, I met you in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I said, oh, yeah, Jim, you know. And I said, he said, yeah, I met you at a meeting in 1986 at Radford Hall. I said, oh, yeah, that Jim. Yeah, man. And I said, what can I do for you? And he said, well, I'm bleeding. Kind of like Rebecca, I guess, you know, right? And not really like Rebecca. She was hit by accident by a bouncer. But this guy, he said, I'm pissing blood, I'm throwing up blood, and I said, I get the picture, man. And he said, I was thinking I might need to go to another meeting. And I said, well, when was the last time you were going to meetings? And he said, that meeting that I met you at in 1986. And I said, man, you got to double up on your meetings. And so he... And I said, well, I'll come and get you. And I said, but before we go to the meeting, maybe we'll stop off at the hospital and get that blood staunched. I said, you know, I don't want to scare any of the new people. And he said, okay, and he gave me his address, and I started getting dressed. And about 5 minutes later, I'm just going out the door. The phone rings again. It's Jim. He says, listen, I'm okay now. He goes, never mind. I said, man, you know, I've heard of a lot of miracles in AA, but you might be at the top of the list. And he said, I said, tell me about it. Tell me. I said, you just called, you were in trouble. You said you're bleeding. You need to go to another meeting. Tell me exactly what happened in the 5 minutes since you hung up. And he said, well, this is, you know, wait for it. I was thinking. That's what he said. I was thinking. And I said, oh, man. He said, if I go to the meeting, they'll probably tell me I have to quit drinking. And I said, well, they may discuss that they're not drinking. That comes up sometimes. And but, you know, I wouldn't, you know, I don't think anybody would tell you got to quit drinking. He goes, yeah, but he goes, if I quit drinking, what would I do for fun? I said, man, you know, with all that bleeding, I mean, that's all the fun you get in the world, you know. Like, you know, it doesn't get no better than that. And so that was the last time I talked to the guy. And the only reason I bring that up is because I'm that guy. I mean, the thinking, I'm the king of stinking thinking, you know, or I used to be. I'm not so bad now, but I understand. And you know, what's great about that story is, first of all, I couldn't tell it at a PTA meeting. They would be horrified, you know. Nobody would laugh, like you sick people. But you're not sick, really. The reason you're laughing is the same reason I had to shake my head and laugh, is because you identify with him too. Everybody understands that guy. Everybody understands exactly where that guy's coming from, all the way down the line from the first words he said to the last words. And the thing that I understand the most about him and about myself, but especially where I was at the same place where he was when he called me, was, you know, he's powerless over alcohol. That's the bottom line. He's lost the power of choice. And he's gripped, you know, he's got the obsession of the mind, the allergy of the body, and everything that makes sense. You know, the momentary bout of sanity that he had when he called me was, you know, that was pushed aside in 5 minutes in favor of the insane idea that he could drink again. And it reminded me of, in the book where it talks about, there's a line where it says, most of us felt we had plenty of character. There was a tremendous urge to cease forever, but we found it impossible. I identify with that, because by the time I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, the idea of not drinking was an idea that I found impossible. I couldn't even wrap my head around the concept. Real quick, I didn't start drinking until I was about 18 years old. I grew up in a house I was the oldest of two boys. Neither one of my parents drank. A couple people in my family, in fact, a lot of people in my family did. I mean, I said my name was Finnigan. What do you want? You know, if it wasn't for the Irish in this program, we could hold the meetings in a phone booth. But I got the virus. In Cleveland, I heard a guy say CIA, Catholic Irish Alcoholic. And it's kind of redundant, but I didn't drink until I got to college. And the first time I went drinking with these guys, went to a grown-up bar in Kansas City. I went to University of Kansas, and these guys, I was there on a basketball scholarship, and these other jocks took me to this bar in Kansas City, about 20 miles away, and it was like with adults, you know, it wasn't a college bar, and I'd never had a drink before, and they said, they ordered a beer and a shot, so I ordered a beer and a shot, and after a few rounds, they started, I heard what alcohol was supposed to do, waited for it to happen. I saw them starting to weave a little bit and talk funny and getting a little happier than they had been, and it didn't happen for me that way. What happened, see, I was the kind of guy, if I went into a room full of people like this, where I didn't know anybody, really, I know some of you, but didn't know anybody in that place. What I saw in the eyes of the people in that room was a look that said, "What's that guy doing here?" That's how I used to feel. And but after a few rounds, I didn't see that. What I saw was a look of welcoming and love, and that was just the guys, you know. Now, in the eyes of the women, what I saw was a look of hunger. So I was enjoying my first experience with alcohol, and I shared with a lot of people that night. And I shared all night with this one woman that was particularly hungry, and I'm convinced that I helped her. You know, well, she helped me. I know that, and so that was what happened. Though was that it changed the room. Is what I'm trying to tell you. Is that my first drink changed the room. Didn't change me. At least I didn't feel like it changed me, but it sure as hell changed you, and it changed my life. And that was the beginning of my journey to Alcoholics Anonymous. And I don't have a lot of time. I don't have to tell you my whole story. That was just the first step towards being with you guys, you know. And it took a long time. Alcohol grinds slow, but it grinds fine. And that's not the only thing I ever did. I dropped out of school about a year later and went in the music business. I'm a musician. I still am. Started traveling all over the country, playing in upholstered sewers back then, and with a lot of older guys, and they helped me get to AA, kind of like I helped Jay. With second all, two and all, marijuana, heroin, cocaine, and just all that stuff, man. I tried everything, and I did more than try it, really. I kind of, became a tongue-chewing, knee-walking drunk and a full-blown addict, and by the time I got to you guys in 1986, I was certainly ready. I'd been married for about, let me see, yesterday was my 42nd wedding anniversary. So I've been married for, thank you, I'll tell my wife you approve. And she's a sober member of AA now, too. In fact, that's probably the only reason we stayed married for so long. I mean, at the time, we separated for a while just before we came into Alcoholics Anonymous, because even two alcoholics couldn't stand the other one after a while. And we went to a marriage counselor just before we came in, and after we'd been separated for about 3 weeks, and the separation was interesting. I just came to one day, and she and my children were gone. And that hurt my feelings, and but it was the right thing, and that was actually the low point for me. That was bottom, because I realized, it's like when Bill says when words can't describe the bitter morass of that self-pity, and he talks about I'd met my match, alcohol was my master, and that's how I felt that day. And I realized I was a failure in every department of life, certainly as a father and as a husband, and as a brother, as a friend, as a son. And I really, that was the moment of clarity that the book talks about. And I'm so grateful for that, because up until that time, I hadn't had anything like that. I didn't ask for it. I didn't deserve it. It just happened. I was telling a friend of mine who's got a brother that's alcoholic, and he goes, what can we do for him? And I said, just don't do anything for him, Back off and let him, just let him fall. Everything you think you know about helping people when it comes to people like me doesn't apply. If you think you're helping, but you're not. Because every time you try to help a drunk, what they really interpret it as is my behavior is okay, because they're here. And when my wife took off and took our children and left me alone, that got my attention. We went to a marriage counselor, and she talked to each one of us individually, got us back in the room and together, and said, I don't think I can help you. And now I was weighing about 260 then. Alcohol, I was wearing my booze in those days. Nobody comes into AA at their right weight, or not too many of them. Some people are emaciated, and some of us are all blowed up, you know. And but I kind of stopped bathing about that point too, and maybe that's why she left. I don't know. But I didn't look that good, and I didn't smell very good, and. But the woman said, well, I don't think I can help you because she said, I think you're an alcoholic to me. She hurt my feelings, like, you know. And then she said to my wife, and I think you're an alcoholic. And I said, by God, that's right. You know, the woman gets it half right, you know. So we, that was shortly after that my wife, who was the one that really had the sack to do something, and went into treatment and then came out and started going to AA, and I followed shortly after that. And it's the best thing that ever happened to me. A guy that I'd known that I used to drink with took me to my first meeting and appointed himself my sponsor, which was fine because I didn't know anything about AA or sponsors or any other damn thing. But he just said, you know, I'm going to be your sponsor. And I said, what's that? And he said, that means you're going to go where I go and do what I do. And that's what I did. And I was really fortunate because that guy was plugged in. He was right in the middle of AA, and he was with a bunch of other guys that were right in the middle of AA, and they all had commitments and panels, and they were really active in Alcoholics Anonymous. And they were having a good time, and it made it look good. And as I said, having that moment of clarity was a real gift to me because I was entirely willing. It had nothing to do with whether or not I was a good guy. It had to do with the fact that I had been beaten into a state of reasonableness, as the book says, and I was desperate, and there was nothing in this world that I wanted more than to not take a drink that day. And that was a gift. That was not something I deserved either. It was just something I was given. Now, I thought about a drink every day for a long time. And but my sponsor got me into the big book and started taking me through the steps right away. I said, damn, what's the hurry? I mean, you know, and he goes, the hurry is you're 41 years old and you're going to die drunk. You know, that's the hurry. He said, we're going to go after this like you used to go after booze and drugs, you know. And, you know, I was reading a book with a guy earlier today, and we were reading about that ex-problem drinkers armed with certain facts about themselves. And that's what I learned from you guys. I located myself and the truth about me by listening to you. When I got to AA, they didn't ask me how I felt. They told me how I felt. And they were right, you know. And I found out exactly more. When I first raised my hand as an alcoholic in a meeting, it was because I drank too much. I didn't know anything about alcoholism. I didn't know anything, you know, the symptoms, and I learned all about that from you guys and from my sponsor and from other people that, you know, told the truth about themselves in these rooms. And I was able to start understanding what I was up against and understand that, you know, just because I thought it didn't mean it was right. My ways of thinking and acting were the habits of years, and habits aren't a matter of conscious choice. You know, the way I thought, and, you know, when the book talks about some of us trying to hold on to our old ideas, it doesn't just mean my ideas about drinking. It means all of my old ideas. And I had a lot of them. I had some ideas about who I was that were completely wrong. You know, I had this self-image as this rugged individualist. Guy didn't take any shit from anybody. Ran my own show. You know, stood on my own 2 feet. Wasn't afraid of nobody or nothing, and it was all a lie, because I was a terrified titty baby, you know. I mean, that's the truth of it. I mean, once I was in here for a while, I started seeing the truth, which was I'm run on fear. You know, I don't stand on my own 2 feet. I let the way other people behave and what I think they're thinking determine how I act. You know, I had to learn how to relieve everybody else of the responsibility for my happiness. And up until that time, I'd been dependent on all of you to make me happy. That is a big job. I remember my sponsor telling me, you know, after I gave him this litany of everything that was wrong and how I didn't understand how making coffee was going to help me, he said, well, you know what it did? He said, I'll tell you what, we're going to work on you for a little while, and when we get you straightened out, we'll work on them. you know. Anyway, finding out about who I really was helped. And then turning that over in the third step, I remember, you know, I mean, the 12 steps are all about my relationships. My relationship, I had no spiritual relationship. I had no spiritual life when I got here, really. The steps are designed to help me, as someone alluded to in their birthday talk, about finding a power. Now, talking about the spiritual part of AA is like talking about the round part of a basketball. You know, that's all we got, you know, and true. But I found out that I am a spiritual being, and I found that out from you guys. And I found out that, you know, through the third step, turning my will and life, meaning my thoughts and my actions, over to a power that I don't understand. I don't know anything about God, and that's okay. I'm not supposed to. The only thing I do know is that I turned my will and life over to the care of God, as I didn't understand God. I used to be bad to drink, and now I'm not. And did inventory, found out all about how those people had been running my life and how I turned my will and life over to them for so long, and found out that I was run on fear, and I found out that I'd done a lot of things wrong to a lot of people that I had to straighten out. And I told the truth about that to my sponsor. Then I asked God to help me change. Went around, made amends. It took me about 15 years to get my amends squared away. Hadn't paid taxes in about 15 years. That kept me awake a few nights. So I didn't wait for them to come after me. I remember my sponsor said, well, you're going to have to go talk to them. And I said, what about that stuff about, you know, I'm either in faith or I'm in fear. And I said, I'm really in fear about going to the IRS. And he said, well, sometimes you just got to do it scared. You know, do it anyway, man. And I was able to clean that up, and it took a long time. But I'm not owing anybody anything today, you know. And there isn't anybody running around that I can think of, that I know of, that I remember that I owe any amends to, because I did that. And through the rest of the steps, 10, 11, and 12, I managed to stay in the day I'm in, living on the spot I'm standing on, and applying the 12 steps in this day, the tools that I was taught in Alcoholics Anonymous, so I can be happy, peaceful, and free. You know, and there's not a day that goes by that I'm not able to utilize these steps in my life, because they work good. You know, they work real good. There's not much that comes up in my life where I can't take a look at what my part in it is and what I can do about it to make it better. And sometimes I just got to do it scared, and sometimes I just have to sit still and not do anything, you know, because that's what's the correct action a lot of times is just don't do anything, you know. And I continue to try to improve my relationship with this higher power I don't understand. I sponsor about 25 guys, and that sounds like a lot, but hell, about 20 of them have been sober 4 or 5 years or more, and it's not that hard to sponsor guys like that. Because then you, instead of getting calls about how they broke a shoelace or some other catastrophe, arose, I'm getting calls about going back to school or getting my degree, or I got married, or we just had a baby, or I'm working with another guy. What should I tell him about this, and so on and so forth. It's easy to sponsor guys like that, but I like to keep a couple of new guys on hand. Because if when I'm talking to a brand new man, I'm talking to me, you know. And you know what? We aren't that goddamn inventive, you know. I mean, that's what's so great. You read Bill's story. I was reading it with this guy today, and he said, man, Bill sounds like me. And I said, yeah, who would have thought in 1932 or something that Bill Wilson would be just like you in 2011? I said, us alcoholics just don't have much imagination, you know. We think we do, but we don't, you know. I mean, if all the alcoholics in the world ever marched on Washington, they'd all be carrying signs saying my case is different, you know. But anyway, you know, I'm grateful today. I said I was grateful at the start, and I'll finish up by telling you I am grateful. You know, and gratitude, you know, what's your name that took a cake for 13? Bob? Joe. I'm sorry, Joe. You said you used to be angry when you heard Grateful. You know what? I didn't get angry. It just was like somebody said something in Russian, you know, because, I mean, I didn't have any concept. I mean, you know, I had a lot coming when I got here, you know, and my sponsor said to me, you ain't got nothing coming, you know. Just, you know, get ready for it. You got nothing coming, except you got happy, peaceful, and free coming if you take these steps and stay in this program. But gratitude is an action. I learned that in Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, and it's a perfectly righteous reaction and feeling to a gift freely and spontaneously given. I didn't earn it. What I was given here, you know. Hell, if I ever got what I deserved, there'd be a big smoking crater where I'm standing, you know. But instead, I got you guys, and for that, I am grateful. Thank you.